Hi, everybody. So today on this Google Hangout, we are going to be talking about organ meats. I'll be speaking with Dr. Terry Wahls, Professor of Medicine at the University of Iowa. Dr. Wahls is a staff physician and teaches students and resident physicians. She has published many peer-reviewed articles and created the Wahls protocol, which is based on a functional medical approach to healing. Not only is she a doctor, but also someone who has lived with a chronic progressive disease. Diagnosed in the year 2000 with multiple sclerosis, she sought out the best medicine from the Cleveland Clinic, took the newest drugs, but continued to decline. By 2003, she underwent chemotherapy in an attempt to slow the disease and was reduced to using a tilt wheelchair because her muscles were so weak. In 2000, Dr. Wahls discovered functional medicine and learned that diet plays a significant role in our health and in illness. She created a diet geared to heal her body. In December 2007, she started the Wahls protocol, and the results were amazing, not only to her doctors, but herself and her family. Within a year, she was walking and was even able to ride a bicycle. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're going to talk about organ meats, and this is a topic I get asked about all the time, and I really don't know how to respond. So I'm so glad that you're here. First of all, let's start with, why are organ meats such a good choice for us, either whether we've got an autoimmune condition or really for anyone?
You know, they're really some of the best nutrition that you can buy. They're going to be packed with fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K. They will also be packed with very absorbable minerals, probably the most easily absorbed of any mineral source that you're going to have. Great source of protein, essential fats. Our ancestors would have preferred organ meats over muscle meat, and probably a third of their protein would have come from organ meats. And organ meats, you know, come in a wide variety of organs and of foodstuffs that qualify as an organ meat. They're really some of the best nutrition you can get for the money you spend.
Okay, and do the organ meats need to come from organically grass-fed animals, or can they come from sort of conventional animals?
Well, if you're going to have liver in particular, I want that to be an organic animal because you'll end up with a more toxic product. But I want everyone to keep in mind that most of the toxins are fat soluble, so they'll be stored in the fat. So any meat that you consume that is a fattier cut of meat will have a higher toxin load. And so liver, which has a lot of fat in it as well, would have a higher toxin load. And we often forget that toxins bioaccumulate in the food chain. So you'll have the least amount of toxins, yes, in a plant. They'll get concentrated in the fat of the animal. And if you have an animal that is predatory to other animals, you'll be concentrated even more so. So many would argue that the meat may be the most important food to be organic.
Okay, that's great. So I let my community know that I was interviewing you, and I asked them to submit questions that they would want the answers to. So let's just begin. So Nick asks, this is her question: it's my understanding that you used to be a vegetarian, Dr. Wahls, and that while researching your treatment plan for MS, you began to eat meat again. I am faced with this very same concept for my MS healing journey, but I can't seem to wrap my mind or spirit around it. What helped you transition from vegetarianism to eating meat again? This question is a personal one that I've been struggling with. Thank you, Nick.
Well, I have a couple of things for that listener. In my book, I was very careful to have an approach for those who are vegetarian and are committed to remaining vegetarian for their religious beliefs. And I go through ways of making the vegetarian diet more healthy, and to decrease the inflammatory components of it. And that will be sufficient for many, but certainly perhaps not all. For myself, I did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, and I also read through the science that Lauren Credane had written about the hazards of grains, of legumes, of dairy. And I thought he had valid scientific points. He was talking about papers in the New England Journal and Science and Nature, very well respected, prestigious journals that I read through. And so the science made sense why in the genetically susceptible person, and I clearly was afflicted with an autoimmune disease, that the legumes, grains, and dairy could be a problem for me. And so I took them out. Grains are definitely a problem for me. Dairy is a problem for me. I will on occasion have legumes. I don't have an immediate adverse reaction, but I think I do better with them out of my diet. So I had to understand the science. Then I had to do a lot of prayer, meditation, and I made a gradual change back.
Okay, great. So hopefully that'll help Anik in making her decision. Denise asks, would you please ask Dr. Wahls if she considers organic chicken liver and chicken gizzards as a good source of organ meats?
So, I put a photograph up on my Facebook wall, I think not too long ago, that had a picture of conventional chicken liver, organic chicken liver, and pastured organic chicken liver. And what you see is the transition from a sort of pale, watery, to a somewhat less pale, to a deeply red, vibrant, maroon-colored liver, which is, as a physician, I know what the healthy liver should look like. And so it's best if you can get organic, grass-fed, but I'm also mindful that not everyone can afford that. So you have to do the best you can given the resources that you have.
Right, and that would really make a lot of sense for people, because when you see the picture of the liver, that's a great idea. So I will for sure to
go back and look at Terry Wahls, MD, Facebook, and you have to scroll a couple days back to see that photograph. It's quite compelling.
Okay. Please ask Terry Wahls about the effect of cholesterol from eating liver. I think liver has a very high level of cholesterol, but I also think the belief now is that cholesterol in food is no longer considered a factor in keeping blood cholesterol levels low. Thanks, Helen Bowes.
Okay, so let me talk about cholesterol for a little bit. After World War II, some epidemiologists observed that during World War I and World War II, there was a sharp decline in heart attack rates and deaths and stroke. And they also knew that during that time, there was a sharp decline in the intake of butter and eggs. And so they attributed the decline in stroke and heart attacks to the decrease in cholesterol intake. And so we thought cholesterol was a problem. And we saw that total cholesterol was sort of associated with stroke and heart attack risk, but not exactly. Then we did it a little bit better when we measured good cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, and the bad cholesterol, LDL cholesterol. So it was a little better associated, but still not perfect. And now we have a new measure, the small, dense LDL cholesterol particles, that they're a better association. But again, it's still not very precise. And we have a little more new information that has come into light. Another is that when you look at your cholesterol values and you put them into quintiles, so the 0 to 20 percentile, the 20 to 40%, the 40 to 60, and 60 to 80, and 80 to 100%. And now you take the top quintile and the bottom quintile and look at the risk of stroke, cancer, and death for infection. Turns out that, and they sort of thought that low cholesterol would be protective. It was not. High cholesterol protects you against dementia, protects you against cancer, protects you against chronic infection. Well, why could that be? We have to remind everyone that every one of our cells has a membrane, And that membrane, about 70% of the membrane is made up of cholesterol and saturated fat. And we need healthy cell membranes to function, which means we need cholesterol and saturated fat for those membranes to function. And when we went back and looked at our original data that said cholesterol is the problem, we could have said sugar was the problem, because sugar also dropped. And actually, your sugar level and your hemoglobin A1C is a better predictor of your stroke risk, heart attack risk, and dementia risk. And so now let's sort of go back to that small LDL cholesterol particle that we know is a big problem and increases your risk for clogging of the arteries, heart attack, and stroke. What makes that cholesterol-carrying molecule small and problematic? If it's been damaged by an infection particle, if it's been damaged by a heavy metal or a toxin or a solvent, or damaged by a sugar side chain being attached. So if you have high cholesterol, but you don't have it damaged by sugar, don't have it damaged by heavy metals, don't have it damaged because you've got chronic infection, that cholesterol will go to your brain, build good membranes, and it'll be good for you. But if you have a chronic infection, if you have bleeding gums, you have a chronic infection. If you have high blood sugar levels, if you have a lot of solvents, heavy metals, lead, mercury, now you're going to have those small LDL particles, and they will be very, very damaging. And that's really why my protocol is so helpful, because it helps people address their infection, helps them get rid of their solvents, it helps lower the sugar, and it's those three things that are the real drivers for atherosclerosis.
Great, that sums it up very well. Thank you. So this question is from Laura. I don't know where to find organic organ meat, and if you can't find it, is it better not to eat it or better to eat it even though it's not organic? So you kind of touched on that, but maybe you can just...
Well, let's sort of think about what are the organ meats. So you can get mussels, oysters, wild sardines. These are all organ meats that you could get. Wild fish, that'd be great sources for those things. You may have some hunter friends who are out bagging their venison, their elk, ask for organ meats. We have neighbors that come by and drop off the organ meats. And actually our dog loves it, because I make little liver ice cubes for him, and he just goes completely bonkers when he gets one of those. So the hunting community often has more game than they can know how to properly eat, and so often very glad to share some of the meat. And then I would say it's better to go try and find some wild oysters, mussels, sardines. Those are so incredibly good for us. I'd really encourage pursuing that. I would not get factory farmed conventional organ meat.
Okay.
I think there's too much health risk there.
Yeah, there's too much risk. And that's a great idea, to start asking in the community, because as you say, in many communities, people, they go hunting, and you're right. There's just so much meat, that why not? And that's probably a perfect way. Once you start to put it out there, and people will know, and you'll find the meat that you want, for sure. It's a great idea.
If you put out there that you're open to going out and joining the hunting party and assisting with some of the tasks, you'll get your venison or your elk or whatever is the prey.
Exactly. So Jean had a question. So I've been following the Wahls protocol since the book came out, and last year, sorry, I've been following the Wahls protocol since it came out. Organ meats have been a challenge. Your basic liver and onions is the only recipe that I know how to cook, and I can only eat it so many times in a row. While I have modified the basic recipe, now I use thinly sliced pork liver, onions, mushrooms, and bok choy sauteed with parsley, tarragon, pepper, and coconut oil. That sounds great. I would welcome some new and fresh recipes. So my question would be, where would you recommend I go for these recipes?
Well, really simple. Go to Google, organ meat recipes, and see what pops up. I think you'd be quite surprised.
Okay, that's good.
And Sally Fallon has some cookbooks that will have a lot of organ meats in them, so she'd be a good traditional recipe writer to look for. And the other thing that I have that actually I treasure, I have my great-grandmother's 1898 Compendium of Cookery and Modern Book of Knowledge. So there's a whole chapter in there on organ meats, and of course how to dress a rabbit, and a variety of wild games. And it in the 1890s, you didn't just used the entire animal, and so there are lots of organ recipes. And the expectation was you'd serve organ meats 2 to 3 times a week.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, now we just throw them away, which is ridiculous.
I'd also add, if you look for Brazilian and Spanish cooking, they have a lot of organ meat stews that will use a wide variety of organ meats. And they're generally, I mean, I think really quite exceptional.
Okay. And you mentioned there are, other organ meats. So someone asked, are organ meats clams, mussels, oysters, shrimp, and is there any foods that you would not suspect to be an organ meat?
Well, how about cricket flour?
Ah, okay.
Cricket flour. And there have been various products that had red worm meal. And I predict there will be more products that are involving foods that are lower down on the food chain.
Okay. Joanne Sadler says, wonderful. I love Dr. Terry Wahls. I have no problems with preparing liver and bone broths. I would like to know how to prepare heart, tongue, and other less common organ meats. So again, do you recommend just doing the Google search, or?
That's really very easy. I thought I had some recipes for heart and tongue in my book.
Okay, I'll check. Perhaps you do. And if you do, what I'll do is I'll post one of them, and then I'll just refer and just say to people, get the book, because it's so informative.
Yeah, because I was very careful to put in several recipes there, and I believe I think I also had one in there for tongue, and we could tell your audience that I am writing the Wahls Protocol Cooking for Life book right now, so we'll have more recipes. I'll make sure we have more organ meat recipes in there too.
Oh, that's great to know. Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative, and I will send it out to all the followers and post it on Facebook. Please, again, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can find the Wahls Protocol.
Okay, so I'm at Terry Wahls, Terry, Wahls, WAHLS.com. Follow me on Facebook, Terry Wahls, MD. Follow me on Twitter, Terry Wahls. And you can get the book. We have links on my website. And of course, you can go to your favorite local bookstore and support your local bookstores. Keep them going too.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.